Okay, so there's more good news out there, and this may not tug at your heartstrings because it's not near and dear to us, but the Russia-Ukraine war, whatever you think about that whole thing, it's been butchery, butchery. And you can't ever trust the casualty numbers, but when you look at the estimates out there, we're talking about our losses from World War II. That's the kind of butchery we've seen. Well, we wake up this morning and find out Trump had a long phone call with Putin, and the end of that war has begun. Negotiations have officially begun. Let's get this whole thing stopped. Stop losing all their blood. Stop losing all our treasure. Joining me now, Hans Mahncke, author of the book SwiftBoating America. Hans, no matter what, this is a good thing, and I really question anybody who says it's not.
This is a great thing. The thing that frustrates me about this is that it didn't happen 8 years ago. And of course, Trump's hands were tied with this whole Russia collusion hoax, that whole mess. He wasn't able to unleash his superpower, his negotiating power, his leverage, all the stuff in his toolbox. He wasn't able to do that. And we see that he can now. He did today. And we're already seeing the results.
Hans, help me understand, pretend like I don't know anything about politics in America, and I just showed up yesterday. Why the two totally different approaches, the Biden presidency versus the Trump presidency, when it comes to Ukraine, Russia? Why doesn't everybody want the carnage to end? Why isn't negotiating a peace just kind of the normal way they talk? Why so different?
I think it's multi-causal. So you have a lot of stuff going on with old Cold War style people where their whole mentality is Cold War. The Russians are bad no matter what. So you have that. You have the corruption. Remember, you had these CIA bases in Ukraine that no one was told about until recently. That was a big secret. There was a lot of Biden corruption going on in Ukraine. There was a lot of general corruption going on in Ukraine. There was the whole U.S. aid thing going on in Ukraine. So it's a lot of stuff to cover up there that people just don't want anyone to find out about. Then there's these kind of geopolitical thinkers who think that Russia has to be contained and Ukraine is part of Europe and this and that and so on. So you have a lot of different kind of people coming together for different reasons. But unfortunately, they all came together under this sort of globalist umbrella or establishment, at least, whatever you want to call it. And all of those people coalesced sort of under Biden, and they were all pulling in the wrong direction. And, finally, that's been corrected.
Okay, Hans, let's switch gears and talk about something that just makes my blood pressure go through the roof. The whole Chinese spy balloon thing. For those who may have forgotten, the United States government under Joe Biden detected a Chinese spy balloon when it was over Alaska. It was then allowed to traverse the entirety of the United States of America, and they waited until it was over the freaking Atlantic before they shot it down. Hans, talk to me about this, please.
Yeah, no, it makes my blood boil just as you. We've now found out from a still classified report within the Pentagon. It's a 75-page report that's been reported about. The report itself has not come out yet, but that report is supposed to state, what they found. So after they shot it down in the Atlantic, which makes things much more difficult because then you have to send down divers and try and recover everything. Eventually they did that. Would have been easier if they just shot it down over land, but okay. So they found the pieces and now they put them back together, and now they figured out, oh my goodness, this thing is full of U.S. parts. So there's parts in there from Iridium, the satellite phone company. There's parts in there from Texas Instruments, various other U.S. companies that were basically U.S. technology was used by China to spy on the U.S. in a nutshell. That's what was going on. The other thing that I found very interesting that hasn't really been reported is that they found kind of empty compartments within that spy balloon. And they weren't being used at the time, but they could have been used in an offensive way. So there was no offensive weaponry or anything like that on the balloon. It was just spying equipment, but it could have been. So, otherwise, what are all these empty compartments for? So they were talking about maybe you could launch drones, gliders, whatever, that sort of thing. And that's what these compartments might have been for. But, as it stands from what we know now, U.S. technology was used by China to spy on the U.S.
Okay, so walk me through that, Hans, the possibilities there. Does that mean Texas Instruments is collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party? Or does it mean the Chinese are doing what the Chi-Coms have been doing forever, just blatantly ripping off our technology?
Yeah, no, it's the latter. So you can pick this stuff up on eBay. The simple stuff, the more difficult stuff, you have to find other ways of getting. But no, I mean, there's no suggestion at all that any of these U.S. companies were collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese in general. But look at what happened with NVIDIA recently. You know, you had the new Chinese AI, and everyone was sort of reporting about it, and everyone was saying, oh, look, they did it for so cheap, and they did it themselves, and so on. And then it turns out, once you look under the hood, that actually they did it using these NVIDIA chips. But they're not allowed to be sent or sold to China. So what did they do? They went to Singapore and bought, I think, like 50,000 of them or something like that. So it's very easy for them to source, even if there are sanctions, if there are export restrictions and so on. It's very easy for them to go elsewhere and to other markets and find this stuff.
Hans, let's switch gears to something that's your specialty, the Russia hoax. We were talking earlier about Ukraine, the Russia hoax. There are a lot of ties there, are there not?
Oh, massively, very, very much so. I think, first of all, the most important thing that's always kind of overlooked, especially by legacy media, is that the Ukraine war did not start in 2022. It started in 2014 under Obama. It was just on a smaller scale. This was the whole coup situation, which Biden basically greenlighted, Victoria Nuland, that whole story. I mean, I'm digressing here, but that's how it kicked off. They kicked out the democratically elected government of Ukraine. I mean Biden and Nuland replaced them with their own puppets. And the Russians weren't happy with it, obviously not. And that's when they took Crimea. That was back in 2014. And then you had the civil war breakout in the eastern parts of Ukraine, where you have Russian-speaking people who are not happy with this situation, obviously, right? So this has been going on for a very long time. And President Trump could have resolved this during his first term. In fact, during that election in 2016, he kept saying that he was going to resolve it. But then with this Russia collusion hoax, they basically tied his hands. They criminalized any kind of diplomacy with Russia. You remember, I mean, anytime he met the Russian ambassador or something like that, which was completely innocuous, they had a total meltdown, the media did. When Putin gave Baron Trump, the son, a football, like a soccer ball, the media had a meltdown about that soccer ball being bugged and being spyware, and it was just complete hysteria. It was incredibly bad because it prevented Trump from doing anything about that situation that was going on already. And then, of course, when Biden came in, things only escalated and got worse. Now, some people say that the Russia hoax was at least meant in part, and I agree, to cover up for everything that had gone on in Ukraine. And I think that is true. We already talked about the coup in 2014. Ukraine also interfered in the 2016 election quite openly. You can go back and, they had their ambassador writing anti-Trump pieces. They had their prime minister go on Facebook and just go on a huge, horrible anti-Trump rant. This is all in the run-up to the 2016 election. So there was a lot to cover up. There was a lot to be gained by the establishment, by the elites, by all those kinds of people, by Democrats, in painting Russia as the bad one and Ukraine as the good one. That was sort of the overarching idea.
What a freaking ugly state of affairs. SwiftBoating of America, that's his book. Hans, thank you, brother. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.